Have you ever stood in a room that was once full of life, now filled only with boxes and the hollow echo of memories? Imagine Eleanor at 83 doing just that. The scent of lavender and old books, the scent of her home for 50 years, is being packed away into cardboard. Outside, a small moving truck waits. Her destination is a clean, safe, and highly rated senior living community just a few miles down the road. Her children say it's for the best. Her doctor agrees. And a part of her, the logical part, knows they are right. But the other part of her, the part that remembers planting the oak tree in the front yard with her late husband, the part that can still feel the worn spot on the arm of her favorite chair, is screaming in silent protest. This moment, or one very much like it, is a quiet reality for millions of Americans. The transition into a long-term care facility is more than just a change of address. It's a seismic shift in the landscape of one's life. It often feels like an ending, a surrender. But what if it isn't? What if this profound change, while difficult, holds the potential for a new kind of beginning? The secret to navigating this chapter with grace, dignity, and even joy doesn't lie in resisting the change itself. The secret lies in fiercely protecting the essential, intangible parts of yourself that give life its color and meaning, no matter the address on the door. This isn't a conversation about logistics or picking the right facility. This is a conversation about the heart, about the human spirit's profound need for purpose, connection, and control. It's for anyone who is living this reality, for those contemplating it for themselves or a loved one, and for anyone who believes that growing older should be a process of enrichment, not erasure. We are about to explore 5 foundational pillars that you must never, ever let go of, even when everything else is downsized. These aren't material possessions. They are the core elements of your identity that keep the light inside you burning brightly. And the last one we discuss might just reframe how you view the incredible journey ahead. The very first and perhaps most foundational of these pillars is your sense of autonomy. It is the quiet, powerful understanding that you are still the captain of your own ship, even if you are sailing in new and unfamiliar waters. In an environment where so much can feel structured, from meal times to scheduled activities, it is dangerously easy to let this feeling slip away. The loss of autonomy often begins subtly. It starts not with a major decision being taken from you, but with the slow erosion of small personal choices. When someone else lays out your clothes for the day, when your schedule is presented as a non-negotiable fact, when your personal preferences are overlooked for the sake of efficiency, a small piece of your spirit starts to dim. Psychologists have long understood the critical importance of self-determination. It's a core human need, as vital as food and water. To feel that you have a say in the course of your own day is to feel human. Autonomy isn't about being able to do everything for yourself. That's independence, and physical independence may wane. Autonomy, however, is about having the freedom to choose within the boundaries of your current abilities. It's the difference between being a passenger on a bus, simply being taken for a ride, and being the one who gets to choose a seat by the window to watch the world go by. Think of a gentleman we'll call Robert, a retired engineer who moved into an assisted living facility at 82. For his entire life, Robert's days were defined by solving problems and making calculated decisions. At first, the facility felt like a world where all the problems were already solved by someone else. He felt his purpose, his very identity dissolving. He became withdrawn and despondent. But then a compassionate nurse noticed his background and asked for his help figuring out a better way to organize the books and magazines in the common area. It was a small task, but for Robert, it was a lifeline. He began creating a system, labeling shelves, and even making recommendations. Soon, he took it upon himself to create a daily to-do list. It wasn't about building bridges anymore, it was about choosing to write a letter to his grandson, deciding to walk the garden path at 3 p.m. instead of 2 p.m., or selecting the classical music station for his radio. These seemingly insignificant choices were his anchor. They were daily affirmations that his mind, his will, and his preferences still mattered. He was no longer just existing, he was actively shaping his experience. When we relinquish our autonomy, we risk falling into a state known as learned helplessness. This is a psychological condition where a person, after experiencing a prolonged lack of control, simply gives up. They stop trying to exert their will because they believe it makes no difference. This is the true danger in a structured care environment. It's not the schedule that's harmful, but the feeling that one has no power to deviate from it. So how do you protect this vital sense of self? You focus on the details. Insist, gently but firmly, on choosing your own outfit. Arrange your room in a way that brings you comfort and reflects your personality. Decide which activities you wish to join and which you'd rather skip in favor of quiet reading time. Voice your preference for tea over coffee. These choices are the muscles of your autonomy. If you don't use them, they will atrophy. Protecting your right to choose is protecting your dignity. What's one small choice you made today that made you feel in control? Share it in the comments below. Your example could be a powerful reminder for someone else. Flowing directly from the need to control your own world is the second essential pillar, maintaining a vibrant connection with the world outside the facility's walls. When you move into a senior community, it's easy for your world to shrink. The physical boundaries of your new home can, over time, become the boundaries of your entire existence. This isolation doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow, insidious creep. A missed phone call here, a canceled visit there. Before you know it, the vibrant tapestry of your social life has thinned to just a few threads, and the world you were once so deeply a part of begins to feel like a distant memory you watch on television. This disconnection is one of the most serious non-medical threats to an older adult's well-being. The U.S. Surgeon General has declared loneliness and social isolation a public health epidemic, with studies showing its health risks are comparable to smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day. It is linked to a higher risk of heart disease, dementia, stroke, and depression. But beyond the clinical data is a simple human truth. We are social creatures. Our identity is forged not just in solitude, but in our relationships with others. Your role as a mother, a grandfather, a friend, a former colleague, a member of your church in Chicago, or a regular at a coffee shop in Austin. These identities don't expire when you change your living situation. They are the threads that connect your past to your present and give your life story its continuity and richness. Consider the story of Barbara, an 84-year-old former school teacher who moved into a continuing care community. Her two sons and their families lived in different states, and while they visited, the visits grew less frequent as life got in the way. Barbara could have resigned herself to this, sinking into a quiet loneliness. But she was a teacher, a communicator. She refused to let her connections fade. Every week, she would sit down and write postcards to her grandchildren. They weren't long, detailed letters, but small, vibrant snapshots of her life. A funny thing a fellow resident said, a description of a beautiful bird she saw in the garden, a question about their soccer practice. She filled them with stickers and little drawings. At first, the response was slow, but then her grandchildren started writing back. Then they began calling her, excited to talk about the postcard they'd just received. Soon, the visits became more frequent, not out of obligation, but out of a renewed, active connection. Barbara didn't wait for her world to come to her. She actively reached out and pulled it closer. In today's world, the tools for connection are more abundant than ever. Don't wait for people to remember to call. Be the one to initiate. Ask a staff member or a volunteer to help you set up a video call with a dear friend across the country. Reconnect with your old hobby group or church community via their online newsletter or Facebook page. Dictate an email to a former neighbor. You will be astonished at how many people are delighted to hear from you. They were often just caught up in the whirlwind of their own lives and needed that gentle nudge. This isn't just about staving off loneliness. It's about keeping your mind engaged. Hearing about your nephew's new job or your friend's trip keeps you anchored in the present, a participant in the ongoing story of life, not just an observer of it. When you lose that connection, the days can feel indistinguishable from one another. But when you actively maintain it, you fill your days with anticipation, with laughter, and with the profound life-affirming feeling of belonging. If you've ever reconnected with someone and felt that instant lift, tell us about that moment in the comments. It might just be the inspiration someone else needs to make that call. This brings us to a crucial point, the third pillar you must guard with all your might, your sense of purpose. After the career ends, after the children are grown, and after the home is sold, many older adults are confronted with a daunting question: what is my purpose now? It's a question that can echo in the quiet hallways of a nursing home, where the rhythm of life can sometimes feel more about passing time than living it. The danger is believing that purpose is something reserved for the young, for those in the workforce, or for those raising a family. This is a profound and damaging misconception. Purpose is not a job title. It is the fundamental reason you get out of bed in the morning. It's the inner drive that makes you feel that your day and your presence in it matters. Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, wrote in his masterpiece, Man's Search for Meaning, that the primary human drive is not pleasure, but the pursuit of what we find meaningful. He observed that even in the most horrific circumstances, those who held on to a sense of purpose, a reason to live, whether it was for a loved one, a project to complete, or a faith to uphold, were the most likely to survive. While a nursing home is worlds away from such extremity, the principle holds true. Without a why, the how of daily life can become an unbearable weight. Apathy sets in, depression follows, the joy of living withers. Purpose in this new chapter of life is often found not in grand sweeping gestures, but in what we might call micro-purposes. Let's revisit the story of Walter, an 82-year-old widower who was deeply withdrawn after moving into his new community. He felt adrift, a man without a mission. For months, he ate his meals in silence. But one evening, he noticed a new resident sitting alone, looking terrified and overwhelmed. Walter remembered that feeling acutely. On an impulse, he picked up his plate, walked over, and asked if he could join the man. From that single act of empathy, a new purpose was born. Walter made it his personal mission to be the unofficial welcoming committee. He would learn the new residents' names, find out a little about their lives, and make a point of introducing them to others who shared similar interests. The staff began to joke that he was the mayor of Maple Creek. Walter wore that invisible badge with immense pride. His purpose, ensuring that no one felt the profound loneliness he once had, gave shape and meaning to his days. Finding your purpose requires introspection. What skills, wisdom, or kindness do you possess? Perhaps you have a green thumb and can take on the role of caring for the community's potted plants. Maybe you are a great storyteller and can organize a weekly session to share life stories with other residents. Perhaps your purpose is as personal as writing letters of encouragement to soldiers overseas or knitting blankets for a local animal shelter. It could be mentoring a younger staff member who is struggling, or simply being the person who always has a kind word and a listening ear. Purpose gives you direction, but more importantly, it gives you dignity. It is a powerful declaration to yourself and to the world that you still have something to offer, that your contributions are still valuable. If you're not sure what your purpose is, start small. Ask yourself, who around me could use a bit of kindness today? Or what one thing can I do that will bring a little more beauty or order into my environment? Don't let that inner fire go out. Nurture it, feed it with intention, and find your reason to say, "Today counts." If you're finding this video valuable and it's sparking ideas, please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe. Your support helps us create more content to inspire and inform our community. Hand in hand with a sense of purpose is the fourth and deeply personal pillar, emotional independence. When you live in a communal setting, your physical world becomes intertwined with others. You share dining rooms, hallways, and activity spaces. In such an environment, it's incredibly easy for your emotional world to become entangled as well. It's easy to become a thermometer, simply reflecting the temperature of the room, feeling anxious because your neighbor is anxious, becoming irritable because of a staff member's stressful day, or sinking into sadness because the general mood feels low. Emotional independence is the ability to be a thermostat instead. It's the capacity to set your own internal emotional temperature, regardless of the climate around you. This concept is about owning your emotional responses. It's the quiet strength to remain grounded even when the world around you is in flux. It's about not outsourcing your happiness, your peace, or your sense of self-worth to others. Many seniors, through no fault of their own, fall into an emotional dependency trap. They wait for a visit from family to feel cheerful. They wait for a staff member to offer praise to feel valued. They wait for an invitation to an activity to feel included. When you hand over the keys to your emotional state like this, you give away your power. You become vulnerable to the whims, moods, and schedules of everyone else, which is a recipe for chronic frustration and disappointment. Cultivating emotional independence is not about being cold, aloof, or suppressing your feelings. It's about developing a robust inner life and a set of tools for self-regulation. It is the wisdom to know what you can control and what you cannot. You cannot control if a friend is in a grumpy mood, but you can control whether your mood to ruin your afternoon. You cannot control a change in the dining menu, but you can control your reaction to it. I knew a woman named Carol, 84, who moved into a home after a bad fall. She was fiercely independent and was initially deeply frustrated by her new limitations. She missed her home, her garden, her cat. But Carol was a pragmatist. She made a conscious decision. Every single morning, she would sit by her window with her coffee and write down 3 specific things she was grateful for in a small notebook. Some days it was a struggle. Her list might read, 1. The coffee is hot. 2. The sun is shining. 3. My roommate is quiet today. It didn't matter how small they were. That simple 5-minute ritual was an act of profound emotional independence. It was her way of calibrating her own mindset for the day, of finding the good before the world had a chance to show her the bad. She became a source of calm and stability on her floor, not because she was always happy, but because she carried her own emotional weight. This also involves healthy boundaries. Just because you live in a community doesn't mean you have to absorb everyone else's drama or complaints. It is not selfish to politely excuse yourself from a conversation that is draining your energy. Protecting your peace is a necessary act of self-preservation. You have earned the right to guard your emotional space as fiercely as your physical room. Remind yourself, especially on difficult days, that your worth is inherent. It is not tied to your physical abilities, your former career, or your current address. It resides within you, untouchable unless you grant someone else permission to diminish it. That is the core of emotional independence, holding on to the unshakable truth that your inner world belongs to you. Have you ever had to consciously protect your peace? Share a tip in the comments on how you do it. Your strategy could be a lifeline for someone reading this.
Finally, we arrive at the fifth and perhaps most overlooked pillar, the one that can infuse all the others with life and vibrancy. You must never lose your sense of curiosity. It might sound like a luxury, a nice to have after the more serious concerns are addressed. But in truth, curiosity is one of the most powerful engines for a healthy and engaged mind. It is the antidote to stagnation, the enemy of boredom, and the fuel for lifelong growth. The moment we stop being curious, our world begins to shrink. And when our world shrinks, misery finds an easy place to move in. Curiosity is the simple act of asking why, or what if, or tell me more. It's the spark that prompts you to pick up a book on a topic you know nothing about, to ask a fellow resident about their life story, or to try a new activity even if you think you'll be bad at it. In an environment like a nursing home, where routines can become monotonous, curiosity is the tool that can turn an ordinary Tuesday into an adventure. It is the difference between passively sitting through a musical performance and actively wondering about the composer's life. It's the difference between seeing a new resident and simply noting their presence versus wondering where they came from and what incredible experiences they carry with them. One of the greatest fallacies of aging is the belief that learning is a chapter that closes. We associate curiosity with children and students, not with octogenarians. But the brain is a muscle. The principle of use it or lose it is a neurological reality.
The field of neuroscience has shown us the incredible power of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to forge new connections and pathways at any age. Every time you learn something new, whether it's the rules of a new card game, a word in a different language, or a fact about the history of your own town, you are literally rewiring your brain, making it stronger and more resilient against cognitive decline. Let's look at Harold, 87, who at first saw his move to assisted living as the final, quiet chapter. He kept to himself, believing his days of discovery were over. But one afternoon, he overheard another resident talking about using an online service to trace their family tree. A flicker of curiosity was ignited. Harold had always wondered about his grandfather, who had emigrated from Ireland. With a little help from a tech-savvy volunteer, Harold embarked on a genealogical quest. He spent hours in the facility's library, learned to use a computer for research, and even began writing letters to distant relatives he discovered in his search. That single spark of curiosity transformed his existence. It gave him a project, a purpose, and reconnected him with his own story in a profound way. His days were no longer about waiting. They were about discovering. Staying curious also means being open to the universe of stories that surrounds you. Every single person in your facility is a living library, their shelves filled with decades of experience, joy, sorrow, and wisdom. Curiosity is the library card that gives you access. Asking a fellow resident, what was the most exciting technological change you witnessed in your lifetime? Or, tell me about the town where you grew up, is more than just making small talk. It is an act of connection and mutual enrichment. It validates their life story and expands your own understanding of the world. If you ever feel the gray fog of boredom setting in, challenge yourself with a simple question each morning. What is one new thing I can learn or discover today? It doesn't have to be monumental. It can be as simple as learning the name of a new flower in the garden or finding out how your favorite dessert is made. When you lose your curiosity, you become a prisoner of the familiar. But when you nurture it, you remain a lifelong explorer, and the entire world, no matter how small your physical corner of it may seem, remains a place of endless wonder.
So, as we draw these threads together, a clear picture emerges. The transition into a care home after 80 is not a sentence to a smaller life. It is an invitation to cultivate a richer inner one. Your sense of autonomy, your connection to the world, your personal purpose, your emotional independence, and your undying curiosity, these are not just comforting ideas. They are the essential pillars that uphold a life of dignity, joy, and meaning. The real tragedy of aging isn't the acquisition of wrinkles or the slowing of one step. The real tragedy occurs when we prematurely surrender the very things that make us feel alive, when we let go of our own narrative and allow our identity to be defined by our limitations rather than our potential.
The beautiful truth is that every one of these 5 pillars is still within your reach. They do not depend on perfect health, a large bank account, or the prestige of your facility. They depend on awareness and intention. It takes courage to speak up for your needs, to choose your own path for the day. It takes effort to reach out and maintain connections. It takes reflection to find your purpose in small, daily acts. It takes discipline to manage your own emotional state. And it takes a conscious choice to remain curious about the world and the people in it. I have met individuals in their 80s and 90s living in the simplest of rooms who radiated more life and joy than people half their age. Their secret was not an absence of problems, but a refusal to give up on what made them feel human. They chose to be the author of their days, even when the pages were smaller. The choice, in so many ways, remains yours. If you are facing this transition, or if you are already there, I urge you not to believe that your best days are behind you. They are different now, to be sure, but the heart of what makes life worth living, love, growth, contribution, and wonder, is still beating strong inside you. It's up to you to listen to it. Thank you for spending this time with us today. This is a topic that touches so many of us, and your perspective is incredibly valuable. Please leave a comment below and share one thing you learned or that resonated with you today. How might you apply it in your own life or in the life of someone you care for? Reading your thoughts and stories gives us tremendous motivation. If you found this video helpful, please show your support by clicking the like button, subscribing to our channel, and sharing it with others who might benefit. Your support is what allows us to continue creating meaningful content designed to inform and inspire. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.